Norma McCorvey, the woman who had become known and made famous by the pseudonym Jane Roe. We don't often talk about the fact that she was a birth mother. She had lost 2 children to adoption, and then she became pregnant again and wanted to end the pregnancy, and that's when she goes on the journey, which eventually leads her to becoming Jane Roe.
And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast that's about to interview a podcaster about her new podcast, otherwise known as a matryoshka or Russian nesting pod. Do you have one of those, Alyssa?
I do.
You have a nesting doll?
I do. Got it from Russia.
I got one for my kid. I thought it would be a cute gift. It's not. It's many pieces that get lost. All right, let's get into this interview because I'm so excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Today, we have the talented producer, journalist, and host, TJ Raphael, here to discuss her new investigative podcast, Liberty Lost, a heart-wrenching investigation into the dystopian maternity home run out of Liberty University. TJ, welcome back to Hysteria.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, before we get into it, oh my God.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, a little under the hood. When TJ pitched us on this podcast, I was like, what? This sounds crazy. And then when we were able to listen to the podcast, I spent the entire time listening with my jaw dropped. Like from second one. So like, bravo, TJ. This is
Thank you.
Amazing podcast.
TJ, I had to drive in my car listening to it because I didn't want to be distracted. And I had to keep pulling over and like taking notes that I couldn't believe. Like that can't be possible. And then I'd get back in the car, rewind 20 minutes and listen again. I'm like, no, it did happen that way.
Oh my God.
It was really extraordinarily done.
Thank you.
And could you give us a TLDR about what the show Liberty Lost is about for the listeners?
So Liberty Lost focuses in on the Liberty Godparent Home, which was opened in 1982 by controversial preacher Reverend Jerry Falwell, the architect of the moral majority, one of the founders of the modern evangelical right. And Falwell opened this maternity home in response to Roe v. Wade. He thought that if he could show America, if he could show the courts that there could be a quote unquote alternative to abortion, that, eventually Roe v. Wade, there would be the political will to do away with it. So Falwell opens this home. He uses his television show, The Old Time Gospel Hour, to basically source his own followers to send their pregnant teenage daughters to this maternity home. And so this maternity home is still operational. It's on the campus of Liberty University. And I was able to connect with multiple women who went through the home as pregnant teenage girls. And yeah, their stories are heart-wrenching. They describe an environment of coercion, pressure, religious manipulation until they surrendered their babies for adoption to affluent Christian couples, often in exchange for scholarships to Liberty University.
Okay, TJ, before your podcast, there was virtually no coverage of this idea of the godparent home outside of the narrative of Liberty that Liberty University promotes through its own channels. So how did you first come across the story?
Yeah, so it was in the summer of 2022, and I was interested in doing something related to abortion rights. Eventually, I made the podcast, The Pill Plot, which I came on here to talk about. But I also, at that time, heard from a woman named Abby Johnson. I had put out a call, and I said, I want to speak with women who went through maternity homes because I felt like the pre-Roe era was one, of course, of, dangerous back alley abortions. But that was just one part of the story of the pre-Roe era. It was also a time of forced birth and coerced adoption and maternity homes. So yeah, I put out this call on social media. I expected to hear mainly from baby boomers, women in their 60s and 70s, and I did get a lot of emails from them. But I also got an email from Abby Johnson, and when she reached out to me in 2022, she was 31 years old. And she told me that she had been at this maternity home in 2008. I mean, that's the same year Beyonce and Jay-Z got married, same year President Obama was elected. Like, wasn't long ago. And when she told me that this maternity home was on the campus of Liberty University and, started by Jerry Falwell, I mean, alarm bells started to go off. And that's what really set me down the path of looking into this. And like you said, Alyssa, there really hasn't been any coverage of this place in the decades since it's been open. I think a lot of the reason for that is, as you can hear from the women in our series, the experiences of being there are incredibly painful, whether or not you placed your child for adoption. One woman, she wound up keeping her daughter, but remains traumatized from her time there.
Ugh, I've got two little kids, and I also am friends with a woman who is like a birth mother. Like she gave up. She's like had her own kid that she kept, and she's also been a birth mother. And the trauma of like being a birth mother is really profound. And like the thing that really stuck out to me the most was like the heartbreak of the mothers whose babies were basically coerced away from them, even like later. There's one woman that you speak to who seemed like at the time she felt pretty solidly that she wanted to surrender her baby for adoption, but she even sounded traumatized and fully like at the time believed that like wealthy and pious people were more worthy of having her baby than she was as the mother. And I feel like the Liberty home, or the Liberty godparent home, kind of hammered that message into the girls who were there, that rich Christian couples actually deserve to have children more than poor people or young women who aren't married. Like if Liberty University actually cared about the lives of babies, like why wouldn't they promise to just give the moms money after the baby's born?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I think it, relates back to Jerry Falwell's ideals of traditional family values, quote unquote. Our main source for the show, Abby Johnson, she kind of explained it perfectly to me. She said that, in a Christian's mind in that environment, the baby is thought of as pure and sinless. And the mother who got pregnant out of wedlock is thought of as sinful and scandalous. So in a Christian's mind, keeping that baby, that, pure baby with the sinful mother equates in a Christian's mind to celebrating sinful behavior. So they want to get those babies, pure babies, and match them up with, pure married couples, pure quote unquote. And so that's really the motivation. It's a very patriarchal attitude, very heteronormative, that says a child should only grow up in the context of marriage, that single moms, shouldn't be seeking any resources, whether that's, Medicaid or food stamps or things like that is bad for society. And the only, way to really have a family is to do it through a married couple. And also, I mean, for Falwell, he, said that, these children would be then raised up in, his church among his ideals. He's kind of creating a new generation of Christians, basically.
I mean, but underneath the piety, there's also like a lot of money. Right.
Right.
And I feel like you capture this really well in the podcast, is like they talk about how like all these ideals and building a nation of like, a white Christo-fascist fascist nation, whatever. But ultimately, like every single baby that gets adopted from the godparent maternity home, that's like tens of thousands of dollars or $100,000 to the agency that like, I mean, it literally sounds like Liberty University is like a child trafficking organization. Did you ever get to a point where you felt like that in your reporting?
Yeah, I mean, I felt that it was incredibly alarming. The adoption fees at Family Life Services, which is the godparent home, or the godparent home's adoption agency, it's physically attached to the maternity home. So a lot of the women I spoke to said it was kind of like living inside of an adoption agency. Their fees start at, $30,000, and that's just the starting fee. It can go up from there. And then Falwell himself was using these pregnant teenage girls to raise money constantly. Like his television show would do hour-long specials on the godparent home.
And he would trot them out, right?
Oh, yeah. He would ask them to stand up. He would bring them to the front of the church and, then ask people to open their wallets. There's a clip that we play in the show, though, where he says, make your check payable to the old time gospel hour. So the checks weren't even being made out to the godparent home. And yet that, the women in the home, many of them were signed up for Medicaid. I was able to get my hands on multiple copies of the home's official handbook. It says very clearly that they pay for none of the girls' medical services. I mean, they also had to, their parents were paying for their maternity clothes, for their toiletries, for, everything. Their, the furniture at the home was donated. So yeah, I mean, it's very unclear, Falwell's using these pregnant teenage girls to raise money. And yet it doesn't seem that that money is actually going to help these girls. And, the staffers I spoke to, they said that they were, making minimum wage working there. So it's not like the people inside were really getting paid a lot. It's kind of just being funneled into the Liberty University system, it seems.
TJ, were you ever able to see inside the home or see pictures of it?
Yes. So I was able to find a video on YouTube where they did like a virtual tour, and I showed that to multiple of my sources and I said, does this look the same? And they said, yes, for the most part, it looks the same. Maybe the paint has changed over the years, but that was it. And it's a fairly modest, colonial brick building. If you didn't know what it was, you would have no idea at all. And I actually did go to Lynchburg, Virginia, and drove outside the godparent home. They were having an annual gathering of birth mothers. I asked if I could go and they told me no, but I still decided to drive by and see the place for myself. So yeah.
Wow. One of the things that I just couldn't get over, I mean, just how every part of the system failed these women. But when Deanne, the social worker, whose only job is to make sure that Abby is not being coerced, actually coerces her.
Yeah. It was very upsetting. I mean, you can...
Yeah. That is that woman's job, like the job of social worker. It was like such a deeply corrupt. I think that's the thing that you walk away with, like how deeply corrupted all of these people were in the name of God or Jerry Falwell, and how, the part that I really had to like take a moment was that they tell all of these girls, you do this, you do God's will, you give the baby, and God forgives you, right? And that wasn't true for any of them in the real world. None of them went back into society as if they had done a wonderful thing and that they had been forgiven, especially the fight between Abby and her father, which was, he called her a slut, like nothing had been forgiven. And so at that point, it's like, well, what have I done all of this for, if not your forgiveness? If you haven't forgiven me, then God hasn't forgiven me. And I just, that part was really emotive.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a punishment. Mm-hmm. You've had sex outside of marriage, you're a heathen, you're scandalous, and your punishment is having your child permanently separated from you and living with the pain. Some of the women described it to me like, the idea that your living child is out there and you don't have access to them, that's one of the most painful things for them. And yeah, I mean, as it relates to Deanne, the caseworker, she has since become the director of the adoption agency that still exists. Yeah, she's running the whole place. I mean, I saw on their Instagram last year alone, they did, I think, 5 or 6 adoptions. So their business is still booming. And that's infant adoptions. I mean, in the United States, there are up to 45 families waiting for every one available infant. So even one agency doing 5 adoptions, to me, that seems like a pretty high number. And I've, heard from other sources that in, Virginia Baptist Hospital they're handing out pamphlets of family life services to pregnant women there. So it's incredibly alarming. And yeah, I asked the Department of Social Services if they plan to open an investigation, and they just sent me an online complaint form. So yeah.
Complaint filed.
I mean, the thing, here's something that sticks out to me. Like, even with all of that coercion and all of that money behind it and all of those like all the lying, all the sliminess, all of the like bullying, the other side of that is there's still only 5 or 6 a year. It's really, women don't want to give up their babies. Like, mothers do not want to give up their babies. And I think that's like it sounds like that's like an inconvenient truth that the godparent home, like, it tries to kind of pretend doesn't exist. Like, they really don't want to mothers don't want to give up their babies. They don't want to.
Right. I mean, when Abby was a resident, one of the staffers that I spoke to, she said about half of the residents at that time were placing their children, which is still extraordinarily high when considering, the national average has been about 1% nationwide for the last 20 years. 1% of people who get pregnant will wind up placing their children for adoption. So 50% is like a 5,000% increase. And I know that other maternity homes, as part of my research, I dove into the archives of Heartbeat International's podcast. Heartbeat International is, one of the world's largest anti-abortion organizations. They have a quote unquote pregnancy help podcast. And they were talking about this brand new maternity home that is open in Utah. It opened within the last 2 years. And this maternity home is reporting a 45% adoption rate. So again, like, that is 4,500% higher than the national average. And I think when you have vulnerable pregnant women living in a facility that holds a certain viewpoint and worldview about who is a fit and appropriate parent, that just snowballs into pressure.
Mm-hmm. What's the current status of the Liberty Godparent home? Like you said that they had like a gathering and there's people still living there. Like how many people are there right now? Like how much money is it generating, et cetera?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how many residents they have there. I know that in early January of this year, Jonathan Falwell, son of Jerry Falwell, presented the Godparent home with a $20,000 check. I know that they're doing renovations. I know that they've gotten a bunch of new beds and furniture donated, but I don't know how many residents are there because they refused to talk to me. I reached out to them multiple times over the course of a year through every means available. I called, I texted, people, staffers, I emailed, I added people on LinkedIn and Facebook, or at least tried to. I sent letters via snail mail. And unfortunately, to date, I've never gotten a response. So, there's no, I don't have any information about how many residents are there, but they are currently operational and are gearing up, it seems, with this new renovation to bring in more women who might be in search of help and, winding up there instead.
Yeah, I just found the Instagram.
Oh no!
I had to look.
I think Caroline found a video from the Liberty Godparent home from their channel, and it's one of the creepiest videos I've ever seen. And I was like only able to watch a couple minutes of it before I had to turn it off. It was like a silent pregnant teen sitting next to her dad, whose like hand was on her knee, and like talking about it was so like in the podcast you talk about how they're taking in foster teens now. Mm-hmm. Like what? Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, so around 2012, they got licensed with the state as a children's residential facility. And that meant that they were able to take in pregnant girls and young women from the foster care system or through the court system. And so basically what was happening around that time is they saw that, the white Christian, middle-class families that were kind of their bread and butter for years, they weren't sending their daughters to maternity homes as much. Also, pregnancy rates nationwide had started going down around that time. And so in order to stay open, you need to bring bodies through the door. And so they got licensed with the state as this children's residential facility. They did let that license expire in 2023. So they no longer can take in pregnant residents from foster care or through the court system. However, they can renew that license because we're in good standing when they let it lapse. And I think part of the reason they let it lapse is because they're doing this renovation of the home right now. And so, even if it's not licensed, like in the state of Virginia, I've looked into this, like because it's a religiously affiliated institution, it doesn't need a license to operate. It just can't get government, designees to go there and send children there basically. But yeah, when it was operational to take girls from the foster care system, I spoke to this CPS investigator, Evan Cater. He was in the U.S. Air Force. He was a big supporter of both Liberty and the Godparent home. And when he was on the job as a CPS investigator, he came in contact with the facility and saw that they were kicking, pregnant girls out if they didn't want to do an adoption. And he had to take a pregnant teenager and place her in the foster care system because because the Liberty Godparent Home had turned her onto the street after she said she would not place her child for adoption. So it's, incredibly alarming and upsetting. But yeah, I'm very grateful to the women in this series that have agreed to speak, some of them for the first time. And since the series aired, I've been hearing from people who have gone through this maternity home at different time periods. I have an interview scheduled next week. I heard from a former staffer who told me that when she was working there, Jerry Falwell was still alive. This was in like 2001 or 2002. And that Falwell himself was reviewing the notes from the girls' counseling sessions. That's how involved he was.
That's so creepy.
That is so creepy.
Oh, what a creep.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh my God. In a statement to Glamour magazine, Liberty University said, quote, claims of this tabloid podcast is irresponsible journalism, or disguised as irresponsible journalism, designed to undermine this important work and to minimize the importance and effectiveness of pro-life organizations. What is your response to Liberty University basically poo-pooing the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of issued a blanket statement trying to refute, the work of the podcast. I'm not surprised by that. I don't think the podcast makes them look very good. However, I would have loved to talk to them. As I mentioned earlier, I had reached out so many times asking them to participate. I even presented with them the very specific claims that people were saying of we are going to publish this statement that somebody said, would you like to respond to this? So that they knew everything that was in the podcast that was said about them, that they could then take the opportunity to refute. They could, take the opportunity to challenge it. They didn't take that opportunity at all. And the idea that this is threatening, quote unquote, pro-life work is, to me, kind of funny, because all of the women featured in this series had already decided against abortion. They wanted to keep and parent their children. Only one of them had considered abortion at all, and that was very brief. And then she made the decision not to do it, and she wanted to keep her baby. So to me, the mission of the home seems to be, we're saving babies from abortion. But all of the women I spoke to wanted to have their babies and, parent them. So it seems kind of counterintuitive to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to keep TJ around because we've got more questions and we've got more to talk about. Hysteria is brought to you by Smalls. How are the news and your cat connected, Alyssa? Cats.
Well, let's see. The news and my cats, they just keep making a mess. I don't know.
I gotta say, the news and my cat are similar because, every week or so, I'm like, this can't keep going on. My cat's 20. I'm like, she's definitely gonna die, and then she keeps not dying. She is. I mean, I'm gonna be super. I probably won't even be able to talk about it. I'll be so sad when she finally kicks the bucket. But every week I'm like, the news can't possibly get more chaotic, and then it does. It's like my cat not dying. Is the craziness in the world making you just want to cuddle up on the couch with your cat? My cat doesn't like to cuddle, but if she
None of my cats like to cuddle.
I feel like my cat knows when I don't want her to be walking on me. If I'm working, she'll come over and be like, don't mind if I rub my face against your computer, against the screen, and then step on the keyboard and stuff. So anyway, the craziness in the world, I think, attracts my cat to try to interfere with my spiraling.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But cats are great. You got to have them. This podcast is sponsored by Smalls. If you are a listener of this show, my cat has always been fed the best food that money can buy. She's now in the twilight of her life, and so she has a prescription diet. But up until she had her prescription diet, I fed her Smalls. She loved it. To get 60% off your first order plus free shipping, head to smalls.com for a limited time only.
Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients you'd find in your fridge, and it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. So I know that when Winky has a sensitive stomach and she prefers Smalls way more than she did her previous food, her tummy handles it better, the taste is better, I like the smell better and the look better. And since making the switch, she's got fewer hairballs, she's got a little more energy, healthier weight,
That's
softer
great.
fur.
That's
less
great.
stinky box. That's right. What more can we ask for, especially when the litter box is outside our bedroom door?
Absolutely. After switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements, like with your kitties. If you have a particularly picky cat, Smalls has a sampler so your cat can try everything Smalls has to offer. Are they like a cat food flight?
It's a flight. It's a smorgasbord.
It's a little flight. It goes from the most fine-bodied to the heaviest body. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm imagining it served in like little wine glasses. And the team at Smalls is so confident your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food.
What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve. For a limited time only, because you're a Hysteria listener, you can get 60% off your first Smalls order plus free shipping by using our code Hysteria. That's 60% off when you head to smalls.com and use promo code Hysteria. Again, that's promo code Hysteria for 60% off your first order plus free shipping at smalls.com.
Hysteria is brought to you by Hiya. Typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise. I mean, Alyssa, do you know anybody, or possibly did you ever abscond with your kids' vitamins when you were little and like eat them like candy because they were like candy?
Yeah, I mean, they were candy.
They were basically candy, right? I did one time and I got in trouble, and I had a tummy ache as a result.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
it's a lot of
vitamin D
sugar.
you ate. Yeah, sugar.
That's a lot of sugar. Well, Hiya was created to not be that. Hiya has created a super-powered chewable vitamin for kids. While many children's vitamins are filled with a bunch of sugar and, other yucky stuff you don't want your kids to have, Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy additives. It tastes great. It's perfect for picky eaters. My daughter, right now, she's extended her food taste. She used to be
branching out.
She's branching out. She ate a taco pocket, which was basically like a little. It was like a little empanada, basically.
Yeah.
She ate an empanada the other day, and we were like, "Oh, yes, you ate an empanada." But she also loves her Hiya vitamins. Like, she loves very few things, and she loves taking her Hiya vitamin. They come in like pink, green, and yellow, and she calls the green ones her Alphaba vitamins because she likes Alphaba, the character from Wicked. It's pretty cute. Hiya fills in the most common gaps in modern children's diets to provide the full body nourishment our kids need with a yummy taste they love. Formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts, Hiya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies and then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and many others to help support immune system, energy, brain function, mood, concentration, teeth, bones, and more.
It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, and everything else you can imagine. Every single batch is third-party tested for heavy metals and microbials in a qualified, GMP-compliant lab using scientifically validated testing methods, so you know the product is safe and nutritious. Hiya is designed for kids 2 and up and sent straight to your door so parents have one less thing to worry about. Are you tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens? Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with more than 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/hysteria. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/hysteria and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
All right, welcome back to Hysteria, and we're still here talking to TJ Raphael about her new podcast, Liberty Lost. TJ, you talk about the era that you, this current era, as Baby Scoop 2.0. Can you talk about Baby Scoop 1.0? When did that take place, and how is this different?
Yeah, so from basically the period that after World War II, sort of 1945, to the early 1970s when Roe happened, maternity homes were all over the United States and all over the world. Some listeners might be familiar with the Magdalen laundries in Ireland. This was a period of time in the West that it was incredibly shameful for women to have sex outside of marriage, to be pregnant, to be single mothers. I mean, it was also very impractical at that time. Women weren't allowed to have credit cards. Most of them were not allowed, to go pursue higher education. And in society, if you were a woman with without a husband, you were viewed a certain way. And then basically by the 1970s, all that started to change. As divorce became more socially acceptable, the stigma around single motherhood began to shrink. Of course, it's not even today completely gone, the stigma around single motherhood, but it began to shrink where women didn't feel the need to have to go hide their pregnancies and place their children for adoption. And so during this time of the baby scoop era, there were 1.5 million adoptions, non-familial adoptions, but when taking into account familial adoptions, so maybe, a daughter gets pregnant and her aunt adopts the baby, or a cousin or something like that, actually the number's closer to 4 million.
Wow.
And so millions of children were transferred from single women to married couples, and it was sort of the boom years of adoption. But yeah, as divorce became more socially acceptable, as the women's rights movement took off, as the pill was introduced, and other forms of birth control became widely accessible, as well as abortion became legalized, maternity homes around the country started to shrink, and the supply of infants in the United States also shrank with it. And so, yeah, I mean, one thing that's really interesting to me that we didn't get to cover in the podcast, but I think is important to note, is that I think adoption and abortion are more intimately linked than we realize. Like, Norma McCorvey, the woman who had become known and made famous by the pseudonym Jane Roe, we don't often talk about the fact that she was a birth mother. She had lost 2 children to adoption, and then she became pregnant again and wanted to end the pregnancy, and that's when she goes on the journey, which eventually leads her to becoming Jane Roe. But she had said that, one of her life's greatest sorrows were those adoptions. And she said, I had been pregnant 3 times, but I was never allowed to be a mother. And, that kind of gives me chills. And Norma, I think, obviously her legacy, I think, is quite complicated. But I think we don't acknowledge the fact that, adoption is so challenging for so many women, even if you voluntarily enter into it. And it's kind of a reproductive justice issue that I think is often left out of the conversation around choice. And I hope that, this series, helps people think more deeply about what it means to have a right to choose and what choice really looks like.
Well, you mentioned that Liberty Godparent Home is not the only maternity home in the U.S. In our last segment, you alluded to a new maternity home in Utah. How many maternity homes are we talking here in the year of our Lord 2025? How many are there? Where are they? Who's running them?
Yeah, so there are currently 500 maternity homes around the country. They're in 48 states. So there might be one in the state that you live in. Government funding has helped fuel the expansion. States since the end of Roe have funneled $250 million into crisis pregnancy centers, adoption agencies, and maternity homes. More than a third of the nation's maternity homes have ties to Heartbeat International, which is, again, the world's largest anti-abortion organization. And Heartbeat says that its number of affiliated maternity homes have increased by 43% since the end of Roe. So yeah, many of these maternity homes in the United States are faith-based, and that can make things ethically murky. If you have a counselor who believes in, quote unquote, traditional family values and believes that adoption is a path to redemption, which, some of their, top executives at Heartbeat have openly said that. We play a clip of, one of them in the show saying that adoption is the greatest redemption ever. It can get very, very ethically murky. And it's unfortunate because I think maternity homes in theory would be good, right? You're a pregnant woman, you're in crisis, maybe you're in a domestic violence situation, the father is out of the picture in some other way, you don't have family support, maybe the safety net you had now suddenly disappears, you're making minimum wage, you don't get maternity leave, and you need help. And so theoretically having a safe place for pregnant women to go is great. But I think that, so many of these are run by conservative, right-wing organizations, and that's where things get challenging. I think, those of us on the left need to be thinking about how we can step in here. Like Planned Parenthood is a household name for, abortion, STD testing, contraceptives, cancer screenings, but we have no household name equivalent on the left of if you're a pregnant woman and you need help.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more of that in a second, but I just also wanted to circle back to something you brought up before, which is that there are 45 waiting families for every one adoptable infant. I'm assuming that number keeps the gap between the number of people who want to adopt and the available babies to adopt is continuing to grow. Are maternity homes actually increasing the number of adoptable infants, or is that number continuing to go down every year?
Yeah, so the data on adoption is hard. It's a black box because we have no national regulatory system in place that requires reporting. It's really only when agencies voluntarily share this information. I do know that up to 80% of infant adoptions in the United States are through faith-based adoption agencies. So, there is a huge number of, I believe, this sort of, again, traditional family value system driving this. I think we have to look at the whole picture. Crisis pregnancy centers are working in tandem with places like maternity homes and places like faith-based adoption agencies. In our final episode, I spoke to one woman, Katie Burns. She didn't go through a maternity home. She went to a crisis pregnancy center, and the woman at the center would only talk to her about adoption and funneled her to a faith-based adoption agency. So yeah, as it relates to the number of infants available, I mean, now that we have the end of Roe, experts that I've interviewed said that, anytime you restrict a choice, you're going to potentially get more adoptions. And I think what's happening now is we're also seeing, these vital social services being cut by the Trump administration. Like Medicaid covers 40% of births. We're seeing a cut to, food assistance. We're seeing cuts to affordable housing vouchers. And all of these things can create a perfect storm for a low-income woman who is pregnant, feels like she has no other option. And I think, that's what can lead somebody to consider adoption. So unfortunately, I think as we see social services cut, as we see the right to end a pregnancy taken away and further restricted in states, that is something that can lead to more adoptions across the board.
So TJ, in the podcast, in the final episode, you talk about how 9 out of 10 women considering adoption often do so for financial reasons, and that those financial reasons can be $1,000 or $2,000. It can be a rent payment. It can be, can I afford a stroller or a car seat? Can you talk about the organization SOS?
Yeah, so SOS stands for Saving Our Sisters, and they're a nonprofit grassroots organization, completely volunteer-led, and it's made up of a group of birth mothers. Renee Gellin is one of the co-founders, and Renee's story is really interesting in that she wasn't a teenager when she got pregnant. She was actually in her 40s when she got pregnant, and her business was going under. She already had one kid at home. Her health insurance said that they would not cover her delivery at the time, and she was in crisis. She panicked. She got pregnant through a boyfriend, but it was a new relationship. They had kind of just started dating for a few months. She did not know what to do. She said, I was barely hanging on as my business went under, to my house, and like, how am I going to do this with a new baby? And so she reached for the wrong help. I mean, she reached out, I guess I have to, place this baby for adoption. And yeah, she wound up placing her son, and her adoption has since closed. But after that experience, Renee decided to start this organization, Saving Our Sisters. And yeah, they will pay, maybe $5,000 to help a mom in need. And I think, I want to be clear too, like, obviously $5,000 is not enough to raise a child to 18, but it's enough to convince someone that they feel like they have a choice to parent in the here and now. Because, some people are just like, I don't know where I'm going to live with this newborn baby. I don't, want to do this to this child. And so like having money to, get through a couple months rent while you figure things out, makes all the difference. And they also have something that we didn't get to cover in the podcast, but I find incredible, is a program called Sisters on the Ground. And so they have volunteers in every single state. And if an expectant mom or a recently postpartum mom is in crisis and feels like she might lose her child to adoption again because of lack of support, because of financial issues, they will actually deploy somebody in person to advocate for this woman on their behalf. And if they have signed the papers and they're still within that revocation period where they can change their mind, they'll help coordinate that. And so this organization, I just find them incredible. They're all women who have gone through this and just want to help others not have to, I think they say, make a permanent decision based on temporary circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, and I also I think that there are situations probably where someone just doesn't want to parent, but they also don't want to have an abortion. And adoption is a good decision for them, even though it may be difficult because of the bond between mother and baby. They want to do it. It's not like I don't have enough money. It's like I straight up don't want to raise this kid, but I don't want to not have it. Like that, in that circumstance, it seems like it's a great option, and there are people out there that want to have a baby, and there's lots of people out there, but I feel like the number of those people compared to the number of adoptions is pretty small. And I kept thinking as I was listening to the podcast, if adoption were treated like organ donation and made it so that it was not essentially buying a baby, if it were illegal for any entity to profit from the adoption of infants, and adoption was restricted to extended family or under all but the most extreme circumstances, do you think maternity homes would exist? If all they were able to do was to give a place to live for a pregnant person, do you think they would exist if there wasn't an adoption component to make money off of?
I mean, I think some of them, would definitely exist. But yeah, I mean, there are incentives here. In places I think in the UK and Australia and Germany, adoptions are completely managed by the state. There are not private entities where you have, fees being exchanged for services and things like that. And those countries also, as you were saying, Erin, prioritize placing a child with an immediate family member. And if there's nobody available, then placing that child in a foster care system and doing, an outside of family adoption. I think that there definitely are women who, maybe don't believe in, abortion or find out too late and feel like I can't be a parent. I want to do this adoption. But as you said, those are very rare cases. Most people there's a study called the Turnaway study, and it looked at women who were denied abortions and then what the outcome was. I think only, 5% of those women actually chose adoption in the end. The other 95%, they just chose to keep and parent their children after they were denied abortions. And so it's always the least popular choice among anyone who becomes pregnant. It's just not really appealing to most people, to the idea of, gestating a full pregnancy, giving birth to that child, and then, separating from them. I mean, we hear from a woman in the show, Sarah P., and, she actively chose this, but she said, your body's different after that. You are conscious that there's a piece of you out there in the world. And even though she has a great relationship with her son's parents, they're still in touch. She really is kind of an extension of their family in a way. She's it's still hard. It's still painful. So it's, even if it's something you actively choose, I think that's also something that needs to be more discussed, is that for birth mothers. But I think the profit motive at, private adoption agencies, they don't want to highlight all of the, potential trauma or grief that you might experience 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, because that could turn someone off from adoption. But I think it's a hard choice to make, even when it's one you actually really want.
So what are you hoping for once this podcast or now that the podcast is out there? Where can listeners find it?
Yeah, so Liberty Lost is available anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, you name it. We have 4 episodes out now for free. The final 2 episodes will also be released for free. Episode 5 will come out next Monday, and then the following Monday, episode 6 and a bonus episode. But if you want to binge the whole thing right now, listeners can sign up for Wondery Plus. It's like $5 a month, and they can get everything right now ad-free and binge the whole thing. But I hope people, when they listen to this, just think more deeply about choice and what it means to choose and how we're, supporting women or not supporting women. I'm a firm believer in whatever you want to do if you're pregnant. If you want to end that pregnancy, you should be able to do that. If you want to parent that child, you should be able to do that. If you want to place that child for adoption, you should be able to do that. And I hope that this makes people think more deeply about that and how we can hopefully one day move towards a society where we have those options for real for everyone.
Wise words. Your lips to God's ears, TJ. Thank you so much for this podcast, and thank you for joining us this week. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Sani Petty. Hysteria is brought to you by Aura Frames. I don't know about your family, Alyssa, but we have a cluster of birthdays in my family that happen over the summer. There's so many Geminis, Cancers, and Leos, man. And
our quagmire is February and March.
Interesting.
Nonstop, back to backs.
Interesting. My husband's family is all in December. Him and his brother and sister, they all have birthdays in the same week, and it's right around Christmas. It's it's
that's tough.
Yeah, it is really tough. But you know what? Even if you have a cluster of birthdays and you're like, what do I get? Here's a good idea for a gift. Aura Frames. It is perfect for sharing pics of all the things that relatives who might live somewhere else can't necessarily be there for, like family vacations to their grandkids' elementary school graduation.
My family, we don't have a lot of photo sharing. I would not say that we are a great photo sharing family, but you can set it up so that you can have a nice stream. Set it up for your parents, grandparents as they would be. It's the gift that keeps on giving because they just get new pics every now and again. They get a nice little pic of the new grandkid. They don't care about seeing me anymore. Just cats and babies. And it's like, here you go, enjoy yourself. It is the most hassle-free, joyful thing that you can provide.
I don't know if your mom is like this, but my mom does this. If I don't send her enough pictures, or if I don't contact her enough, I'll get maybe 2-3 days. I'll get a text that's just are you okay? And I feel like having
everything all right?
Everything all right? I haven't heard from you. And I feel like an Aura frame would help stave that off because I always get the "Are you okay?" text when I'm recording or I'm driving, and it's how are you? It's yeah, I wish that there was just not I don't like communicating with my mom, but it's funny. She has a sixth sense, and she can tell when I'm busy, and she texts me then and acts concerned. And I feel like an Aura frame is a good way for me to send her pictures and be
totally
proof of life, Mom.
Upload them.
I'm
so
fine.
Nice.
I'm fine. Everything is okay. Aura frames come with unlimited storage and simple controls on the frame so you can upload as many photos as you want, and Mom can pick the perfect one. See why it was named the #1 digital frame by Wirecutter, The Strategist, and Wired. You can save on the perfect gift that keeps on giving by visiting auraframes.com. For a limited time, listeners can get $20 off their best-selling Carver matte frame with the code AURA20. That's AURA frames.com, promo code AURA20. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Hysteria is brought to you by Ritual. Erin, sometimes I just can't get all my vegetables. Sometimes I don't want to eat my vegetables. Sometimes I've had a bad day, and I just want to have M&Ms.
M&Ms, a hamburger, chicken nuggets, chicken tenders, whatever.
I can't be in control all day, every day.
No.
Sometimes I just have to do what feels good instead of what's right, which is why I am grateful for Rituals, essential for women 18 and over. Erin, I am most definitely over 18. The 18 and over multivitamin isn't exactly a salad and a pill, but it is formulated to help you fill key nutrient gaps that you might not be getting enough from your diet.
I really like Ritual because I don't like taking pills. I know, controversial opinion. I don't love taking pills. And this is a multivitamin that covers all the bases I need it to cover, and it does so without giving me a yucky multivitamin aftertaste. There's a little minty fresh in the bottle, and so I just take it, go about my day, have spend half of my time in the snack closet at work eating like bags of trail mix and beef jerky sticks. And I know that I'm not as depleted in vitamins and minerals if I would have been and not taken my Ritual. Here's how I know Ritual does what it's supposed to do, and I don't have to think about it. Ritual conducted a university-led clinical trial for their Essential for Women 18 and Over multivitamin to assess its efficacy. The results, it increased vitamin D levels by 43% and omega-3 DHA levels by 41% in just 12 weeks.
Which was great for me because I have very low vitamin D levels. So I've been taking my Ritual, trying to get that vitamin D back up where it needs to be. Because, Erin, their Essential for Women 18 and Over contains 9 key nutrients and 2 delayed release capsules designed for optimal absorption per day. Gentle on the stomach, minty essence like you mentioned, and Ritual's Essential third-party tested for heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified, so you know you can trust what you're putting in your body. Instead of striving for perfect health, aim for supporting foundational health. Get 25% off your first month only at ritual.com/hysteria. Start Ritual or add Essential for Women 18 and Over to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/hysteria for 25% off.
All right, now let's get to Sandy Petty. Alyssa, what do you got for us?
I'm feeling sane.
What?
Well, no, I'm not feeling. I'm going to tell you the one thing that's making me feel sane.
I was
and
like,
it's
you're the only one.
It's life in its purest form. This week, Erin, it's not the same week every week, but this week in upstate New York, the fruit is aplenty, including my royalty raspberries. And one of my favorite things is that my friend from high school, Krista Greco, her daughter, Nat, runs one of the farm stands I go to, and she texted me before the show, and she's like, Alyssa, we got your raspberries. And so my favorite thing now is as soon as we're done here, I got to get down to Montgomery Orchards and pick up my flat. Erin, you know, some of this is coming your way because it's the most special jam you will ever have tasted. They were very special raspberries.
Yay.
And then I got a text from my old friend Nancy Eager down at Eager. She's like, we got apricots. And there's nothing nicer than it's always ladies. I have like 4 or 5 ladies around the county who know the fruit I like, and they just send me little texts like, we got currants. And in a world that's like so dark where it seems like nobody's doing anything nice, texts about raspberries and currants is so special.
That is pretty special.
Yeah, that's my Sani.
All right, I'm feeling petty.
Okay.
I'm watching Love Island USA.
All right, I had a feeling.
Well, here's the thing. The reason it makes it very easy to become petty because there's so much of it. It's like 6 hours a week. It's like it's like a shift at a part-time job. You know what I mean? Like there's so much content. I barely have any time to do anything. So I'm like watching it in bed before I go to sleep on my phone just because I want to like catch up because if I go on TikTok before I'm caught up,
it'll be ruined.
It'll be ruined, right? And there's like so many things about it that I'm noticing I'm noticing that like there's so much like nudity, like semi-nudity. There's not like actual nudity, but like so many like butts. There's so many butts. There's so many like under boobs and side boobs and top boobs and stuff. And like so many like abs and like what we used to call penis muscles. You know what I mean? Like lower abs in a man. Like so much of that and so much like really like theatrical over the top, like making out by contestants during challenges and stuff. And it's like, it is not in any way titillating to me. It is like, I'm like desensitized.
I get it.
You know, like I would be more like, oh my God, if I was in public and I saw like a couple and like one guy put his hand on the girl's butt in public over her clothes. Like that to me is more like sexy than what Love Island USA is. It's very weird. I saw somebody being like, it's porn. And I'm like, no. Like it is desensitizing. I don't find it like, it's not sexy at all. But another thing that I've realized is that it is, the reason that it's not that sexy or like that interesting, and there's only like one couple that seems like they really like each other, is like it feels a little bit like watching a business meeting. Like these people speak to each other in like such business like a business like way. It's like they're all in HR and they're.
I was gonna say, is it therapy speak?
It's like therapy meets HR. So like they'll have like a conversation where someone would be like, you know, it made me uncomfortable during the last challenge when you licked Huda's belly button. And I just wanted to tell you that made me feel insecure and uncomfortable. And then the person would say like, Well, I hear that you're insecure and uncomfortable, and I'm sorry that I did that to you. It was part of the challenge, and I got carried away. I wasn't considering your feelings, and then it's just, but it like,
Erin, no, I get it.
I mean?
It sounds like mediation.
Right. It's like couples counseling with no counselor there,
Right.
and like they're not really quite getting what the like. There's no actual feeling below what
Right.
they're saying, or like the feeling below what they're saying is buried beneath all of this like subtext and like steps that they've been told they have to take in communication for it to be effective. It's like aliens having a business meeting. It's so weird. And I also think that it like a thing I'm feeling petty about is I think like younger Gen Z, not older Gen Z, people who are like 25 and older, you're off the hook, you're fine. You're not fine, but like you're better. But the ones that are younger, like the COVID generation,
Yeah.
are completely inept. Like they don't. They are like they're cooked. Like they like are. They're driven crazy by the fact that they don't have access to social media for the first time, maybe in their entire lives
right.
since they were teenagers. They don't have access to someone just telling them what they think of them. They can't just log in and be like, what do people think of me? What do I look like? What do people think of me? What do people think of me? They only like get drips and drabs of it, right? And so I think it's driving some of them crazy. I also think that they don't have the emotional faculties to like foster real connections. They can only like perform sexuality and not like it's like those I guess like I see sometimes on social media where it's like aesthetic, here is the like gothic academia aesthetic. It's like people want to like wear the aesthetic without anything supporting what begot the aesthetic. You know what I mean? It's like, this is why people dress this way. They want to like dress that way without doing any of the things that cause people to dress that way. I feel like it's that with sex. Like they want to be sexy without understanding what underlies sexiness.
Right.
Which is like attraction, which is like being excited about somebody, which often is like, it's very weird.
Erin, how many episodes of this are there?
There's like 32.
That's insane.
I know that's so many hours.
For one season? For one season?
They're not even done yet. They have like 2 or 3 more episodes left. I'm like, it's so much time. I'm like embarrassed by how much time I've spent watching this show, but I've like started thinking about it like an anthropologist. Like, what is this? How is this a reflection? What is this doing to me as a viewer? And what does it mean about my place in the world? What is it doing to these contestants? What does it mean about the world that they're
What it
coming up in?
means about you is that nothing good has come out in a couple weeks. Okay. But tomorrow we get the new Lena Dunham show with Megan. Is her name Megan from Hacks?
Oh yeah, Meg Stalter.
Meg Stalter comes out tomorrow. I feel like that is the palate cleanse that will be needed.
Oh, Lena, I never thought I would say this, but save me, Lena Dunham.
Lena, we're glad you're back, girl.
We're counting on you.
Hannah Horvath.
I'm sorry about all the things that I said about you being annoying in 2016.
We were all growing, okay? We need you back.
You were annoying in 2016, but before that, you gave us so much that we should have given you more
So
grace.
much.
We should have given you more grace.
Lena, come on Hysteria. Can we get Lena on Hysteria?
I don't think she's going to want after
She
I'm like,
will.
you were annoying in 2016.
Yeah, but I'm sure. Listen, if you told me I was annoying in 2016, I'd be like, girl, I probably was.
Oh, I was extremely annoying in 2016. I was at the peak of my physical attractiveness and I had not been humbled yet. And it was like, I was the worst. I was at my worst, but also I had the best year of my life. It was so fun, but I was awful.
See? Right. Life ebbs and flows. And
Yeah,
all
best
I'm
year of
saying
my
is,
life until November.
I am
up
living
until November. It was like the best
up
year
until
of my life.
November. The girls' rewatch has been enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a good thing. You know what? That is what I'm going to do. I'm going to palate cleanse with some girls after this.
Early seasons.
I think in my defense, I know that like a lot of people are like, Love Island, it's so dumb. I know.
Well,
I know it's dumb. Like it is.
But you're invested.
It is a show that I watch because, first of all, a lot of people are watching it, so I feel like I'm participating in a monoculture that is like vanishing in this country. I feel like, oh, I'm doing something with other people. I'm not isolated with my children or like isolated in my little life in my little house, and like, I'm doing something with other people that I can't see. We're all doing this at the same time. That's fun. It's like watching a sporting event, you know. I get that it's dumb, but I also think like given the overwhelming nature of news and the overwhelming darkness of the world that we're in right now, everybody needs a way to just like tap out for a little bit, right? Like not tap out permanently, but like I can't constantly be thinking about the direction that things are going. I will exhaust myself and be completely unable to do anything to make anything better.
But you know what I do?
What?
I put my phone away. I make myself a little cannabis cocktail right around 8 o'clock. I put my feet up. And I don't care what day it is. I rewatched the last 2 episodes of And Just Like That. Because you know what? Carrie's got shoes. She's got clothes. I think she needs a new man. I'm kind of bored of Aiden. But everything else, they're just like old friends who haven't changed that much, and that's delightful.
I think I think after And Just Like That, they should do like a ghost version where they all meet
Which
in
would
the
be
afterlife.
amazing.
They all
Which
meet
would
in the
be
afterlife.
Amazing. And it's like, and now Carrie's got a cat, so you know I'm invested in a whole different way.
I'm worried about Shu. I feel like this whole
Shu's going to get out.
And this whole season has been. You remember the season of Mad Men where we all thought that Megan Draper was going to get murdered because they kept referring to Sharon Tate. Like, yes. We were all like, she's going to get murdered. She's in LA. She's living in the Hollywood Hills. She's going to get murdered. I feel like that is Shu's role in this season of And Just Like That.
Everything is just a little too, every time she picks Shu up, puts her out her door, you're like, where's Shu going to go?
Yeah.
And that is part of the fun, but it's also Sex in the City, so we know Shu's not going to die. So it is an anxiety that we can actually live with.
Yeah, and I feel like we know one writer in that writer's room who is a cat person.
Yes,
like she likes animals. So I
may text her after every episode.
I feel like
I'm like, listen, this is what I loved. This is what I loved.
Can you tell me about this? My hope lies with Sam, our friend.
Yes,
and I think that I hope that I believe, I trust that Sam will not kill the cat. Please do not.
Sam won't kill the cat. She knows.
All right. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Hysteria. It was a heavy week, man.
Well, we brought it home.